Welcome to another battle report, folks, and this is the second and last game we're going to be fighting in Ponryi. This game we're going to do is not going to be so much of a set piece attack defend game, it's going to be dust up, and the idea is that the two sides have clashed, won some ground, lost some ground, and it's got a little bit more mobile, right? So the lists, let's start with the Soviets. So this is a hero motor rifle force. So the platoon sizes are smaller, which I prefer. These guys are reluctant though, unless they've got a commissar, or rather the commissar is still alive. And if he is, then they're confident. So here you can see this here, the infantry platoons, the mortars, the heavy machine guns, that is the core formation. And in support we've got four ZIS-3 guns, 57 mils, 7 T-34s, these are the ordinary basic T-34s hitting a 2. And then for artillery we've got 122 mils instead of Katyushas. I'm just finishing these guys off, you can see there's a little bit of painting to be done on them. But they're a preferred option for many reasons over Katyushas for me. Katyushas cover a bigger area, but that can be harder to get an artillery bombardment in for a pin before an assault if it's needed, because the standoff distance from the edge of the larger Katyusha template is, a bigger standoff distance from the edge of the smaller artillery template. They can also direct fire as well, short range, but firepower 2, which is quite good. So this is all support. And then this is the core formation. In terms of what will be on the table, at the start it'll be everything except the T-34, so it's quite a good split in those regards. So, for the Germans, the stuff that you really expect to see at Kursk at some point, we've got Ferdinands and Brumbars supporting a company of infantry. This is the core formation. You've got 3 platoons of infantry and 1 platoon of mortars. So we've decided to use 3 platoons of infantry in these games because, Ponryi was like an infantry battle, really. There was tanks and everything else there, but it was really about the infantry. These guys are going to eat up a hell of a lot of points. We'll sit down and work out what Brian's going to have on at the start, because he'll be half on, half off as well. It's got to at least be a couple of platoons infantry. Probably the elephants coming on in reserve, with maybe 1 infantry platoon. So we'll work that out. So Brian's going to deploy the Germans over here. It's a good position to say this ground was captured. And his reserves will come on here. And then I'll be deploying over there. We're actually going to, not done it yet, I'm going to fill this ground out a bit with a bit more cover because it's too open just now. And my reserves will come on there. So this is a game where there is no automatic winner, for holding objectives. You have to take your opponent's objective. So we'll see. And obviously I've got to think about how I'm going to handle these guys, which are going to be incredibly hard to kill, and I'm probably going to try and handle it by just trying to destroy his infantry company. I've got a lot of firepower, so that's a possibility as long as I can hold on to an objective in the meantime. So we'll get set up and I'll show you that before we start the game. A quick reminder about the mission. You can see it's got this quite complicated layout with that 12-inch bubble in the middle. So I'll show you the deployment in a minute. Special rules, quite simple. It's a meeting engagement, so no artillery from the player who goes first in the first turn, and delayed reserves. So nothing potentially coming on in turn 1. So let's have a look at deployment. So Brian has put on mortars, 2 platoons of infantry, so he's got something on each objective, and then the big bad elephants, Ferdinands rather, here in my face, especially as my reserves will come along on here. So he's got a platoon of infantry and 3 Brumbars in reserve, and I have deployed heavy machine guns, mortars, smaller infantry platoon with his S3s. Remember, they're anti-tank 11, so they can hurt a Brumbar, not easily, in fact not very easily at all, but they can at least build them, I think. And then the artillery over here. So I've got my company commander in a position so he can view that way, and the second in command in position on this roof so he can view that way to help call in the artillery. So I'm going to roll off to see who goes first, and remember, whoever goes first cannot use artillery. Knowing me, having all the artillery on the table, I'll probably end up going first. But here we go, we'll come back at the end of the first player's first turn. Turn 1, and yeah, you guessed it. I rolled a 3, Brian rolled a 1, so I'm going first. So I can't use my mortars or my heavy artillery for that extra round of punishment. So all that's really happened is the heavy machine guns and infantry have moved out. They're behind this terrain, which is short terrain, but it's tall enough to obscure each other at the moment. We can't see each other. My plan here is to get these heavy machine guns into position to do some damage on them. His Ferdinands can see me, but they don't have machine gun. Still got the main guns, but we'll see what Brian wants to do with them. So that's it for me really, guys. Nothing really. Over to Brian for his turn 1. Oh, and remember, no reserves. Not rolling for reserves till turn 3. So German turn 1. First of all, Ferdinand's moved up and shot a poor wee heavy machine gun. Got 2 hits, 1 saved, 1 failed. Then the mortars ranged in here managed to hit and pin the infantry and the mortars and killed one of the mortars. So these guys have to unpin, or that plan of smashing those infantry to bits is going to be in bits. So good opening turn for the Germans. So turn 2, Soviet turn 2, everything unpinned. Heavy machine guns kept moving up. These guys have moved up, some in the house, and the artillery was ready to fire. And okay, they're not the best artillery in the world, but they completely failed to range in. The heavy machine guns got a couple of hits, and 1 hit from these guys, but there was no fails or fails and pass firepower, so nothing, big fat 0 for the Soviets this turn. So let's go over to Brian and see what he wants to do in his turn 2. German turn 2, no movement. The Ferdinand stayed put, fired to, only got a couple of hits, and they both saved. The infantry don't like the look of those heavy machine guns, so they're staying gone to ground. The mortars hit him, and he made a save with a reroll. Hit him, and he failed to save, but they failed the firepower. So not too much on the German side either this turn, I'm glad to say. But turn 3 next, so I'll start to be able to roll for reserves. So Soviet turn 3, they got the reserves on straight away. Now, I could have maybe brought them up here and got a couple of side shots where I could potentially bail, but I'm thinking, is it worthwhile bothering with them at all just now? So I'm going for a suicide mission to see if I can kill some infantry and give these guys a run around. As far as shooting goes, the heavy machine guns opened up full blast, got 5 hits but no failed saves. These guys got no hits, and artillery, well, the mortars could not unpin, and the artillery failed to range in again. They only need a 5, they're half decent artillery. At least I think they do. I'll double check it, but they failed to range in, so I'm having absolutely no impact on Brian. So Brian's going to go killing some T-34s this turn. German turn 3, the infantry unpinned. The Ferdinands did a blitz and got themselves fully facing here. 4 shots, but they only needed 3s to hit, and they got 1 hit. So 1 hit, 1 kill, went straight to firepower. The mortars lifted their barrage from the Soviet mortars, put it on the Soviet heavy machine guns because they're a real potential threat. 3 got hit, but 3 saved, at least this turn anyway, and they're not dug in. I might have to consider that. So 3 hit, 3 saves, and pinned down. No reserves for the Germans this turn. Soviet turn 4. So quite a lot happened on that turn. You can see there's counters everywhere. First of all, the mortars didn't unpin. The T-34s moved up to assault position on the mortars, the German mortars. There's a couple of guys left in that house, and a commissar there, and lots of red bases. They moved up for an assault. The heavy machine guns dug in. And then as far as shooting goes, the heavy machine guns didn't really have anything effective, but the 122s ranged in, managed to kill 2 stands of infantry and bail 1 Ferdinand. The T-34s with some machine gun shots didn't kill anybody here, but killed a base over there. And then in the assaults, the T-34s went in first, made contact, killed a mortar, didn't have to worry about counter-fire because of the nearest Ferdinand being bailed. And then the mortars just broke off, T-34s consolidated, and then the Ferdinands were assaulted with some of the infantry. Well, not all the hits initially were against the Ferdinands, and then a big skirmish. It's a Scottish word for a sort of like a fight or a messy situation happened, and the Germans managed to stay in the fight, otherwise that would have died, and the Soviets didn't kill anybody in the assault, which is unusual because they actually got decent decent assault ratings, these guys, but they just kept rolling 2s, and then the survivor broke off. So nearly got a Ferdinand, and then the platoon would have been on shaky legs, but as it is, it's fine. If it remounts, lots of juicy targets. So we'll go over to German turn 4. So the Germans got the reserves. Both of them came on this turn. The guys follow me to get up behind those houses. They're getting a position to just start dropping a nasty bombardment on them. They could get bailed out if they're hit on the front. It's unlikely, but it is possible. So they're probably just going to sit back and try and soften me up, and then move up with the infantry. Over here, the mortars didn't unpin, but dug in. The Ferdinands, to get both of them in line of sight, tried a blitz and failed. They got 2 shots, 1 hit, but only a bail. Then over here, these guys are just staying, going to ground. They could open up, shoot a commissar in the open, but then they'll be hitting 5s by then, which is probably going to hurt. So not too much from the Germans this turn. This objective is in a wee bit of danger. We'll have to see how aggressive Brian can be with these, or just how lucky and just shoot the living daylights out of them. He's not been very lucky with them so far. He's only killed 2. He killed 1 actually. German turn 5. So, in this turn, the mortars unpinned at last. These guys unpinned. So what that's worth at the moment. The T-34s kept moving up. And then as far as shooting goes, well, these guys hammered them and killed nothing. The artillery, I was in 2 minds whether or not to try and start firing on the Brumbars rather, or to keep this going. And then I thought, well, my plan's over here, I'm going to try and kill these. Didn't kill anything. They was re-rolling saves and everything, but I was rolling 2s for firepower, which is pretty useless. But over here, the T-34s got in. I mean, they're 5 up skill, so they're not very good in assault, but they killed 1, and more significantly, the Germans rolled a 1. So Brian just pulled back. 1 had to go off that way to avoid capture. He's still within 4 inches of that objective, but he's now going to have to move and deal with this threat might not be enough to just shoot me with elephants, but we'll see. He's got plenty of options and he can put pressure on my objective next turn. So German turn 5, and this is where it's all happening. First of all, the mortar's unpinned. Forgot to fire the mortars, I'll do that later. There was just so much going on here. These guys didn't, but they dug in. These guys have left the objective in the care of the second in command and are moving up. They're not close enough to do much in the way of an assault, but at the same time, you know, they'd be potentially a hell of a lot of counter-fire. They're there to hold the objective. The Ferdinands again. One hit, one bail. Not very good. Over here, the infantry are all in that building. They managed to hit a gun, but it's saved. And then these guys managed to range in. Got quite a few hits, but the guns are harder to hit because they're veteran. But everybody made the save. We'll see what happens when they're on rerolls. So, it's a bit hairy scary over here. I think the mortars are probably going to shoot at the heavy machine gun, so we'll just do that off camera. Soviet, turn 6. So a hell of a lot happened in that turn, guys. Right, first of all, movement. These pretty much just stayed put. These guys have come out of the house. Everyone else stayed put over there. And then, as far as unpinning goes, the heavy machine guns stayed pinned. Anti-tank guns stayed pinned. The infantry unpinned. The tank that was bailed stayed bailed. And so I just launched a massive assault everywhere and charge in every direction. Oh, there was a bit of shooting first, which didn't really do anything. These guys got pinned and one base killed. The mortars managed to range in. The first time I've done it and killed a mortar. Another mortar died in the assault. An infantryman died in the assault. One tank got bailed, and then Soviets ran away. So they lost that, and they lost that, and they're probably now going to get shot to bits by Ferdinands. Ferdinands will finally do their job. So that was a good chance for me to take the objective in that turn, but I think it's passed. But we'll see what happens. So German turn 6, what happened here? These guys didn't unpin. Oh no, they did unpin, but they didn't dig in. These guys didn't unpin, but did dig in. He stayed around but didn't unpin. Infantry over here, unpinned. And then these guys put the repeat bombardment down. They haven't bothered hitting those anti-tank guns, but they killed a couple of bases infantry. These guys added some shots in and at the anti-tank guns, but didn't do anything significant. Over here, the Ferdinands finally managed to kill one tank each, so there's only 2 of them left. Kamikaze attack next turn, I think, you never know. He stayed put. He's a bit worried about these guys, to be honest, but the Ferdinands can run over and at least contest the objective, because those guys can't win it in one turn. So it's getting a bit thin on the ground for both sides over here. Nothing much happening over there. So German turn 7. I'm laughing, by the way, folks, because my wife's been rolling the dice to help out, and she's just lost me the bloody game, I think. Anyway, Soviet turn 7. So what the hell happened there? Well, first of all, the 3 survivors for this platoon came boldly running out here. I'll tell you what happened later. The 2 survivors of this platoon came boldly running up here. I'll tell you what happened there later. And then over here, well, the heavy machine guns didn't unpin. Over here, the anti-tank guns did, and the infantry didn't. But the infantry managed to kill 2 bases of German infantry, so they've taken a bit of a pounding. Hit 2 of them in the bombardment, but they saved. Then over here, these guys ran in, whiffed their assaults, and then ran away again. So they'll get killed by the Ferdinands next turn. Then over here, the big winning move, 3 guys running in against the second in command. One got killed on the way in. Both of them whiffed. Thank you, my darling wife. Both of them whiffed their attacks. Got a 1 and a 2. I think they only needed a 3. He stayed in the fight, killed 1, left the commissar, and being a big brave commissar, he ran away. So that was a good chance for me maybe to win the game. maybe next turn, but it's not happened. So I think what we're going to do now, I mean, we could give the Germans another turn to kill these guys, and it's going to happen one way or another, but they're not going to take an objective. So we're going to call that an honourable draw. Certainly was plenty of action and a bit of to and fro and a few knife edge moments. So I'm going to call that a draw, folks, and I'll go and do a recap for you next. Well, to sum that up, folks, it went pretty much the way that many dust-up games go, with one side not having enough to edge it over the other. We'll come back to that though, so let's talk about the elephants and the Brumbars first, because that's the first time we've used these in version 4. I think after talking with Brian, we've decided that if you want to use Brumbars and you want to use elephants, then use Brumbars or elephants, because they eat up so many points and they have a limited effect they can have on a game. Brumbars got 4 shots, sorry, the elephant, 2 elephants got 4 shots or 2 shots, and it just takes a few dodgy dice for that to basically come up with nothing. So they need something which can support them, put a bit more shots out to deal with the lower value assets. I mean, an elephant's great for killing high value assets, but if there's a massive pile of T-70s or T-34s flying at them, they can only deal with so many of them. So it's good to have some lighter stuff. And once again, the Brumbars, they're a very specialist weapon. In version 4 they were a bit more rounded in version 3 because they had a really good anti-tank. Even if they couldn't move and fire, you could still, in version 4 if it was the same, you could still blitz, fire, shoot and scoot and so on, and keep moving forward. So they need a decent amount of support. Once again, a little horde, such as the Germans can be hordes, to fly around them and to provide support. And that would have really helped in this particular game. As it was, the Brumbars, when they arrived from reserve, they only had a few turns to make a big impact, and you know they're mainly a bombarding weapon. You can drive up close and use your guns obviously and force rerolls of saves, but your bombardment's going to do that anyway. Bombardment's only got a firepower 2, but that's still pretty good. So they're mainly a bombardment weapon, so them arriving from reserves with a platoon of infantry was probably never going to do anything. So it was always going to be tricky for Brian with that list. We're quite happy to accept that. As far as the game goes for the Soviets, the 57 mils is this 3 guns really good, really nasty. They were a threat to the Brumbars, even to the Brumbars. You know, if they came in close or tried to assault, they were goners, especially in the assault. And because they were veteran, they were very hard to hit in the direct fire or bombardment. So they survived very well. As far as winning the game goes, well, you can see I went for it from the off, which put Brian on the back foot and once again made it very difficult for him to he had 2 options: to put his Brumbars in to try to win or bring the Brumbars back to try not to lose, but either way it was going to be difficult to get the win. But I put my T-34s, ignored the Ferdinand, so I nearly killed a Ferdinand. That would have been funny in the assault, but it just didn't quite work out like all my assaults did in the game. But I went for his infantry and it was quite effective. What I really should have done was be braver, and you have to think about that in this mission. I had a platoon of infantry sitting doing nothing. Fair enough, they were a block to Brian's infantry when they came on, but those 4 veteran anti-tank guns with a platoon of 10 infantry, it was worth the risk of them holding on to my objective to attack Brian with 2 platoons of infantry. It may even have drawn off his reserves away from my objective anyway. So be brave, you know, try and hold your objective sensibly but as threadbare as you can, because if I had more infantry going in to those woods, you know, like, and helping in the assault, I think I would have had enough to tip it in my favour. But it was a great game, a tense game. My wife really enjoyed rolling the dice for me, especially when they came up bad. It was, how to put it, Loser was the cry of the night. Whenever she failed, especially if I ran away from one of my critical assaults, where I nearly won. So that was good fun. She tried it again in another game and found it very boring after 2 games, so it's not going to happen again. But hopefully you enjoyed the game. Even if there wasn't a win, there was a lot of tension in it, and it's just getting us started for our Kursk campaign. We've got, let me think now, 5 more games planned, folks, so we're going to keep these reports coming. So if you're enjoying them, stay tuned. If you've got any opinions on the tactics, the lists or whatever, stick it in the comments. I'm sure everybody would like to hear everyone's experiences of the mission, of the lists, what their ideas are, and please like and subscribe, because it really helps us build the channel and get our content in as many people's search results as possible. But thanks again for watching, folks, and stay tuned for the next one, where we're off to, here I'm going to ruin another Russian pronunciation, Altvka, is that it? We'll see.